You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
All right, we're back with the Park Flyer Podcast. Welcome, everyone. It's Saturday morning. And,
morning, everybody.
It is cold and windy again today.
Yeah, it's like rinse repeat of
I know,
yesterday.
right, of yesterday.
Which is so weird because at the evening it stopped. At least it stopped blowing wind and it got kind of nice out.
That's true.
And you're thinking, oh well, tomorrow's going to be like this. It's going to be beautiful tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, the good news is we got more pilots coming out today. The vendors are here. The coffee MF Coffee's here, and we got the hot dog guy, so they're all set up. Got the vendors set up. Eric has showed up yesterday, so that was good too. We're gonna a little chit chat with him.
Yep.
Later on today, but for now, we probably ought to get to the pilot meeting and see what's going on. So let's handle it out and grab an airplane or two and go fly. Actually, believe it or not, I opened today too because I flew today. I was the first one on the flight line, so I flew yesterday and opened it. I flew today.
Right. You're starting a tradition.
I am. But first one out. That way, we can do our podcast.
In the brisk wind.
I know, right?
At least it's straight down the runway.
Yeah, it is. So we're good with that. But all right. Well, let's go fly.
All right, sounds good, bud.
Back with the Park Flyer Podcast, and look who showed up.
Hey, guys.
Eric, thanks for joining us. It's Eric from 3D Aero Ventures.
3D Aero Ventures.
Yeah, we need AK Mike here because he does much better.
Yeah.
You guys are
Miss
much
that guy.
better at it. And, he unfortunately wasn't able to make it. He kind of got caught up in the
TSA
storm.
and
the
storm of
got
cancellations.
strip search.
So, and still looking for his bags, I think, but hopefully they'll find him. So.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited that you're here. You brought a couple airplanes with you.
Yeah.
Looks like you brought your Chipmunk.
Yeah. Got the Chipmunk I had last year. Got a couple new ones.
Yeah.
I decided to mash together two Chipmunks, so I have a twin Chipmunk. It's kind of like a P-82 Mustang looking thing.
That thing is pretty slick.
Yeah. And it turned out really nice. It flies awesome.
Now it's in a different paint scheme than the normal Chipmunk.
Yeah. I did actually take a paint scheme from an RAF Mustang.
Okay.
So the original Chipmunk is from a company called de Havilland, the World War II manufacturer.
Right.
Yeah. And so they had a bunch of Canadian. I think they're a British company that then they
moved
started
to Canada.
Yeah, or they started a Canadian wing or something. I don't know. But they had like the Beaver and all those were Canadian.
Right. They're all de Havilland.
Yeah. So that's just kind of an ode to Canada, the paint scheme on the twin Chipmunks.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
The Tiger's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
A little Tiger.
Yeah, there was a cool RAF squad. Well, all Mustangs that had that Tiger on it.
Tiger on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's very, very cool. I love the silver paint job on it.
Yeah,
and it looks very, I don't know, the paint job makes it look like it's got panel lines.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
The
and
3D printing, it naturally kind of has panel lines.
Yeah,
right, and it gives it a little bit of the weathering. It looks kind of weathered.
Yeah, it
just
looks
because
kinda
of the way the I guess the lines or whatever.
Yeah, the surface.
Yeah.
So, it turned out really good.
Yeah. Now you had to do some modifications to the normal Chipmunk to make this work.
Yeah, you couldn't just print two of them out and glue them all together. But
I just like a 199-inch wingspan. With these two
I really like how you got that duct tape in the middle.
yeah,
Right. It works well.
that's what it looked like they did with that Yak, the Yak 110. They just put like sheet metal to tie them together.
Actually, believe it or not, I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah.
They used a P-47.
Oh, really?
Or a P-40. Yeah,
Like
P-47.
a chunk of wing?
Yeah, they actually found out that the midsection of the P-47 wing, which is one of the stiffest wings out there, fit perfectly in between those little sections. So the guy that was restoring one said, hey, I think I could build another one of these and stick it right between those airplanes, and it worked out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of neat.
So it surprised me how gentle it flies.
Yeah?
Yeah, that big – I mean, the middle wing section is really wide.
Right.
It has a pretty wide wing root, the Chipmunk, naturally. And so, taking that like 18 inches across in the middle it's a big wing area.
Now, do you notice that it's a twin, or does it fly pretty much like a single?
I mean, it tracks great.
Yeah.
There's no – I have like opposing thrust angles.
Okay.
So both going outboard a couple degrees.
Oh, okay.
And then they're counter-rotating props as well.
There you
so
go. So there's no
it
critical
tracks,
engine.
Yeah. So I did that. Yeah, if there's an engine failure.
It's going to just go straight.
Yeah, and I have some redundancy. I put a receiver in each fuselage.
Oh, okay.
And the way the elevators are split, there's a central elevator and 2 outer ones. So
Oh,
I have the 2 outer ones.
Yeah.
The 2 outer ones on a single receiver and the center one on a single receiver. So
That's smart.
I could probably limp it home.
Yeah, if you lost
If
one,
I lost
you
one.
still have an elevator.
So it's actually pretty balanced between the controls.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is going to sound a little crazy.
Mhm.
So can you? So each one. So I'm looking at the tail, and we'll put a picture for the folks to see. But like you said, you have 3 sections: the middle section and 2 outer sections. So
Of
can
the-
you have the 2 outer sections operate independent of
Yeah.
the 2 as an aileron? So you can have
Oh.
so it can roll like
Crazy.
nobody's
Yeah, I could
nobody's
probably
business.
mix something. And I could mix the throttle to be on rudder, give it yaw control. So you could do crazy flat spins and
That
stuff.
would be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know what to
of course,
expect.
this is the only one in existence, so
Yeah.
let's go ahead and try some of this stuff, Jay.
Let's get crazy.
Anybody else, I wouldn't say stuff like that to. But this man
no,
here,
yeah.
I'm sure he's going to have it happening by next week.
a lesser man.
A
would
lesser
not be
man.
able to-
A lesser man. That's right.
Well, so like the F-15 is designed like that too, where the
Yeah,
stabilizers
has
are
such
actually
huge
flying.
stabilizers,
It's
yeah.
huge, and
This would do something. I
Yeah.
mean, they're far enough out there on the sides that it
Yeah.
would definitely help with some roll control.
there was I can't remember the Addiction or something. There was an airplane, I think. Precision Aerobatics had it, and in their setup, they actually had it where the elevator and the flaps, I think, worked
cool.
as one.
Mm-hmm.
So you could get them to work opposite each other, or you could get them to work together. So you could literally do like a loop in
Yeah.
the old body.
Oh,
or whatever.
yeah,
Remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
I had one. I had something like that where it could loop around on its own.
Yeah, that's cool.
It would just flip over on its nose. It was pretty cool how he worked it, but
Yeah.
if you got confused and you forgot to take it out, it was quite an exciting landing. But
Yeah, because I get what you're saying.
because you're trying to flare and is wanting to nose in, and you're
Yeah.
like, hey, what is going on? But yeah, you could do one or the other. It was a really weird mix, and but it was
Yeah.
kind of cool. But that'd be kind of neat. I did, this is the first time it's been sitting here that I've noticed it as 3 different
Yeah.
sections. I don't know why.
That
I
was the
thinking it
easiest
cool.
way. Like, if you look at the twin Mustang, they chopped those
Yes, they did.
outer horizontal stabs off.
Correct.
It's just fuselage.
Just the inside.
So, yeah, but it makes it super stable. It has a huge horizontal stabilizers.
yeah, the yak they actually shortened them as well.
But they left some side.
They left some side ones,
Okay.
but they shortened
Okay.
them. They're not as long as they used to
Gotcha.
be. And they did that, I think, for roll control as well. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of elevator authority back there
Oh,
when
yeah.
you have all that
Yeah,
stuff. So
for
you don't
sure.
you don't want too much. You break the thing in half. So I was asking about these cowlings and the scoops on the front. Those are printed with the cowling?
Yeah, it's all just
put
one
there?
piece. Yeah, it prints in place on the cowl.
That is amazing.
So you design everything because the parts print in a certain orientation.
Oh,
So you have
it's
to keep an
vertical?
eye on like how does it self-support without having to put all
Right.
these support structures in there.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into how am I going to print this thing, and everything's self-support for the most part.
So was it printed nose down and then up,
Pretty
or was
much,
it printed?
yeah.
Okay, so that would make sense because when the printer goes around, it makes those comes out and makes those
Yeah,
ridges.
exactly.
Yeah, and he doesn't need any support on them because they're
because they're part of
they're
it.
part of it.
Yeah.
And they're right
Right,
there.
right.
They're attached to the side. They get the
Exactly, yeah.
support. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
Yeah, there's not much on there. I can't think of any parts on the Chipmunk that needs support structures.
Wow,
Very
that's
nice.
Yeah.
amazing. So go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and so for the canopy, that had to be specially designed, right?
Yeah, I used to use magnets just to it would have a male-female connection on the front and then
Right.
snap on the back with magnets. But
Right.
I'd have to put a bunch to be strong enough for something of this size.
Right.
So I have a little spring-loaded latch, and the full-scale Chipmunk
Yeah.
has a handle, like
Handle.
a latch
Oh, yeah,
slide it
handle
back. Yeah.
on the back of the canopy, so they manually slide it open.
Right.
And so it's a little scale feature that also acts as a spring latch.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
That is
So
smart,
Those
yeah.
little tiny things are kind of cool. And then
Yeah,
I
so
put the
pull
air
it out.
scoops behind the pilot. So is that to let air in for the full scale? Just
Yeah.
to keep some air moving around the pilot to keep him cool?
A lot of times those are there's something in there like a battery or some kind of avionics.
Oh,
or
to
something.
cool it.
Yeah, so they're cooling vents, or they're just for the pressure. to kind of keep it from blowing
so
up the.
It functions well as a little pressure release on this one. So those are open.
That's cool.
Little functional air scoops.
Yeah.
So all the planes are designed. All my electric planes are designed to have some sort of outlet on the back.
Right.
Okay.
Just to let there's wind blowing into the fuselage.
There is. Yep.
From the front. So yeah.
Keeps it from exploding.
Yeah, keeps things cool.
The hot pressure, pressure. So, and you need that. Otherwise, the cowling would just back up and kind of get hot, and then it never vents. So
like on the Stinger's another new one I'm working on. It's
So this is a new one that you brought, right?
Yeah, it was a '90s, real popular plane in the '90s, Lanier RC.
Yeah, Lanier.
RC. They made it in all different sizes. But that
very
one,
scalable.
Yeah. So this one's It's a scalable version.
That's very cool.
So the stock version, if you were to download, is like a 60-inch wingspan.
Right.
You can scale it down to a 40-inch wingspan or scale it up to an 80-inch wingspan.
Oh, wow.
Nice. So it's a pretty good size. The big one.
Yeah, this has got the AK mic version. It's all white color.
Yeah,
right.
Need some color.
It's a prototype, guys.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Hey, he has color. He has color on the canopy. That's all you're going to
took time to paint the
prop.
canopy.
The prop. We can't see that.
The wheels.
Yes. Now let's talk about these wheels because we were over at your booth and I picked up one of these wheels and I thought that it was a rubber wheel with like
a
3D printed hub.
Yeah.
And then Eric kind of looked at me and went, no, it's all 3D printed. So tell me about this wheel because I swear to you, honestly, I mean, I know you can't see it for our listeners, but this thing felt like rubber, looked like rubber, had tread pattern on it. It looked like a real wheel.
Yeah, so the material's really interesting. There's common materials for 3D printing called TPUs or TPE. It's a thermoplastic elastomer. So it's an elastomeric plastic, basically. It's a rubberized plastic. This particular material is actually a foaming TPU. So they call it lightweight TPU. It foams as it prints out, but remains, like the layer adhesion's really good. It remains flexible.
Wow.
Actually, sometimes it's more flexible than the standard TPU and significantly lighter, like at least 50%
That is
lighter.
very cool because that was the big thing about the wheel. Now I've seen other TPU wheels, but I'm not saying they're super heavy, but they're dense. I mean, they're really, really dense. But you pick up your wheel, it's almost like you're getting a foam wheel.
Plus, and you can tweak parameters within 3D printing to get the weight down,
right?
But not as light as these will get. Like, you can change the infill or how many perimeters you print.
And it also goes by the temperature, right? So you can in theory go at a lower temperature and have it stiffer, let's say in the middle of the tire or the sidewalls of the tire, and then have it, not fluffier, but less rigid by a higher temperature, and you can change that in the G code.
Yeah. So, like, say for a wing root piece, you could do the first part of the wing root at a lower temp to get it real rigid, and then slowly increase the temperature and get it lightweight.
That's amazing. So. And to be able to print that pattern, the tread pattern is just crazy. I mean, I don't understand. The sidewall is like super smooth. So I mean, that's what made me think it was like a rubber mold, or at least a foam mold, because it was smooth on side and this pattern, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to. You could do real scale looking tires, and the hubs print separately in a rigid.
A
little bit higher.
Well, I mean,
that's just
I knew
regular
that.
PLA,
That's regular
so.
You can. I use a higher temperature for the hubs because they're rubbing.
Oh, gotcha.
So I use a little higher temperatures. I've seen PLA
Or do you use PTG or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go.
It's easy to print with.
Right.
And,
thanks for letting me in on this conversation, Mr. Acronym.
Tell you the truth, I can't remember what the acronym
do you know what it stands for? All those chemical.
It's like I'm a chemist.
Yeah.
I don't know any of this.
Well,
you guys are talking so far.
I can't pronounce it. So
according to the PLU of the DEFGG of the GOL, I don't know what you're talking about. So they're obviously different types of plastics, right?
Yeah.
Is what we're talking
there's
about.
There's now that's been the biggest leap, I guess, in technology for 3D printing is on the material side in the last 5 or 10 years.
So
or maybe the last 5 years, there's been a ton of development in different materials you can print.
So now on all your airplanes, the Chipmunk's twin and the Lanier clone, they all have the wheels. And you've tested them. How do they last? Do they last a long time? Have never had a problem? Or
I wouldn't say I have like hundreds of flights on them, but I've never had to replace them.
Wow. So they're not like a foam that, I mean, I look at my L39, they have rubber or foam, and they wear down.
That's the thing about TPU. It's sort of like a rubber. You can't sand it.
Right.
It doesn't react to abrasives and stuff, so landing on concrete's no big deal.
What about like the desert or dirt or anything?
Yeah, you could, yeah. I've landed in the desert a time or two. I live in El Paso, so.
Oh, yeah, so it was on purpose, you mean.
That's right.
Yeah.
At least that's what
my
story, I'm sticking to it.
So Izzy, Mike, didn't you have a modeler friend who custom made a wheel?
I did, yeah. I have a friend of mine, and he built a P38, and he actually did the 3D print and then made two halves, glued it together, which made a full wheel, and then he did a mold. Then he used it for rubber. But this idea here would be much better because you could print the whole wheel out of that, and his wheel would be way lighter.
Yeah, you said his was pretty. You said his was pretty heavy wheel.
Yeah, the whole airplane was really heavy, but I mean, it weighed a lot, well over 75 pounds or something. So.
Dang, that's a big. That's a big.
Well, it was the second largest P38, I think, in the world.
Yeah.
So, and the only reason it was like 2.5 or 3 inches shorter. Because it had to fit in his van.
Dang.
He couldn't get it into the van. Yeah, if it had got it into a trailer that was a little wider, he could have got it, wingspan a little bit more. But it was pretty amazing.
That's cool.
So, Wayne Lean, he's an amazing builder. He's got a lot of awards for building stuff. But
real high quality build.
Yeah, matter of fact, his motors had hand-built turbochargers that actually worked.
No way.
It was pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. Motors were probably a little shy of what he needed to make that thing really go.
But scale.
It was a scale, but it was just a little under scale probably.
Yeah.
So, and he flew it a couple of different times. And then I think something happened, but I don't know. Anyway, long story short, it was a really cool project at the time, and he could have benefited from this. So maybe I'll give him a heads up next time I see him. I'll ask him because he may have looked at it, but it just
diameter is too.
The other thing too is that if they're, I guess for the 3D printed stuff, the weight of his airplane, he probably needed the rubber strength versus
maybe. Yeah, I mean you could do a denser infill to strengthen it up. On these printed ones to get it as
wheels
stiff
are probably
as you need.
6 or 8 inch wheels, so they're pretty big.
Yeah,
I mean the airplane.
That's a good sized tire. I mean 8 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but once you see it,
in
person, that's a big tire. For a
when I held it in my hand, it was bigger than my hand.
Yeah,
so, I mean
it would probably fit on a print bed now that I think about it, because an 8 inch tire is huge.
Yeah, it is pretty large. So, and I know he did it on the one that he has at home. So
but
he did have to do 2 halves. He couldn't do the whole wheel. So.
There is the flight test guys now have a wire foam cutter, like an industrial size.
Oh, yeah.
So some of their newer videos, they're making huge planes out of just foam block.
Oh, right.
So they made this huge, like a basically scaled up version of one of their little kits that the foam board kits.
Foam board kits.
But it's, 12-foot wingspan.
Oh, my gosh.
But they printed with that flexible TPU. Or the lightweight TPU, they printed the tires for. They max out the print bed. They're huge little balloon tires.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
So it works. I mean, pretty
cool. That's amazing. Yeah. So, well, this other airplane you bought's kind of cool. What is? It looks a lot like the Infinity Wing, just smaller.
Yeah, just a mini-me.
A mini-me.
So, the Mini Infinity Wing is a new one. I actually enjoy it, I think, a little more than it's easier to haul around. It's easy to hand launch.
Yeah.
It's fast, so I put kind of a speed setup on it with a higher KV motor.
Oh, yeah, we've been watching you buzz around.
So it's cool, man.
And it's a head turner because, once again, that plane, just the plane itself makes people look in there just like doing a double take. And
it has a really cool presence in the air.
Yep.
It tracks so smooth, and once you turn tight banks and see it, like, through the negative space between the wing, the sky shining through.
It does look kind of cool.
Yeah.
So now this one's just slightly different because your prototype over there is all white. I know these 2 chipmunks were all white, and you painted them. This one is not.
Yeah, so there's different colors available now in the lightweight, that foaming plastic PLA. They have silver, red, yellow, and green. Also, so cool. It's cool. Yeah, you can mix and match a bunch of colors. Now there's new manufacturers that are making competing filament that's the same thing basically, but different manufacturers. So they're starting to come out with their own colors. Orange.
Why would we want to go to them when I would buy all my filament from Eric?
Yeah,
that's right. So you are a distributor for these
I'm
now.
not a reseller.
Right?
I don't develop the material.
So, well,
Yeah.
When you're
I won't
not in
tell.
your lab.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
mad scientist lab. Who's
Right. The material I sell is the original designers of this foaming plastic.
Right.
It's called Color Fab. They're out of the Netherlands.
Okay.
So, yeah, I import it here from there. And
There you go.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in it, you can go to 3daeroventures.com.
Mhm.
And he's got a few colors on there.
So,
some
yeah,
foaming
I just
fluid.
sell the filament now. Actually, a lot of the designs I just give away the files for free. So if you have a printer, you can check out the website, and all the files are free to download.
Very nice. Very,
Yeah.
very
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
So we were watching. I went out there and spotted for Eric when he flew this little mini Infinity Wing. And anyway, you landed it. I thought Jay and I were talking about it afterwards, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, he just tore the bottom of that airplane up,
Yeah.
right? Because it's skidding.
It sounds really loud when
It does sound very loud when it is. It's got that note.
Time to print out another one.
But there's a little secret on the bottom of this,
Yeah.
and it's very tiny, but it's also a little belly wheel.
Well, it's also proprietary too.
Well, that's right.
Only to 3 Ventures.
Well, the belly wheel's not proprietary, but the other, yeah.
Yeah.
the high tech. What'd you call them?
I think anti-skid marks or something.
Anti scuff.
Just kidding.
Anti scuff titanium.
Titanium
Yeah.
scuff guards.
That's it. Anti scuff. So yeah, you have these little metal titanium metal pieces
Yeah.
on the bottom.
Tiny
that-
metal domes.
Yep. And I was really impressed with those, and I was asking him about them, and he said, "Oh, I have them right here in my secret box."
Yeah, I hired a NASA engineer to help. He had a little extra time on his hand. I hired him, and he put a little research into.
And I love how he hides the research in a thumbtack
Yeah.
box. So it's like,
Yeah, I just try to hide him in a thumbtack box, make sure people know
That's right. Hide them in plain
I
sight.
didn't put millions of dollars into this.
that's funny.
But yeah, so I use little metal thumbtacks on the wingtips in strategic points, and then the instead of the tail wheel, I put a little thumbtack back
Little
there.
thumbtack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I turned that over because it was so loud.
Yeah.
I was like, wow,
Yeah.
these things are really interesting. And then he's just standing there shaking his head. He's like, those are thumbtacks. I was like, dude, I thought these were like really
Yeah.
high tech,
Yeah, I
know,
Did you
metal.
print these?
Well, like I said, because the sound that it made when it hit the
Oh,
runway,
yeah,
it
it
was
was
landed.
horrendous.
You kind of greased the landing, and it was just,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, I figured,
Yeah.
it was kind of a business model. Hey, the plane's it's almost for free, but we have the bottom replacement pieces, or
Right.
you could buy a
I
12-pack.
Yeah, for $300.
Got a 12-pack.
I do sell packs of thumbtacks, though.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm making a killing in the thumbtack industry.
I realize that the airplanes aren't worth much, but the thumbtacks are like gold.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, so it does have a belly wheel on it, right?
Yeah,
You're
the
like,
main- there's
you
a
said
main
you were a
belly
really
wheel.
big fan of that.
Yeah, I like little belly wheels.
And that's also printed out as a
Yeah, it's the same that TPU stuff.
yeah, which is very, very cool.
Now, Mike had asked me, he goes, well, I wonder how it's going to do in your grass field. And I said, well, Eric's out in the desert.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, he's
You don't
skipping
need-
along
yeah.
the desert and had no problems.
You can
so.
save all that thumbtack weight by keeping it off when you're flying outside.
You can just put a little rubber.
No, I think I'll keep those guards on there
Yeah.
because
It will still slow. If you have kind of rocky ground or
no, it's kind of
Rough.
well,
It's clumpy.
It's
clumpy,
clumpy-ish grass.
Sure.
Ish.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Texas prairie sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it would do great on grass.
okay.
though. Yeah.
Well, it's very cool.
I've-
It has a really good. It's very fast. I was surprised how fast.
Yeah, I think it goes around 80 with
Wow.
no wind, and then downwind you can get it up high.
That's
But
nice.
it's for the size of it, it's a fast little.
Yeah, because you got an 8x8 on there, right?
Yeah, 8.8 prop.
Because
Oh,
on
wow.
our wings we're only running 6.6.
6.6.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
It's a 8.8. That's the. So I brought you guys a couple. I know.
Oh,
man.
sweet! What a nice guy.
Yeah. So there's a green one,
Wow,
and a yellow
dude.
one.
I want
Awesome.
mine custom printed.
Yeah.
Custom print. Yeah, each one
Yeah.
custom printed. What are you talking about?
So maybe next year we'll get get 4 of us to do a little air race of them.
Oh,
No, that would be cool.
That would
actually,
be very cool.
Yeah, we could do a part of the noon demo.
Yeah.
I guess they'd do
Little
some
air
3D
race.
air
Yeah.
race of them. That'd be kind of cool. We all go out there.
Yeah.
So,
So when
that means I have to.
when you fly them, I'll give you a couple pointers.
Okay.
It doesn't like a stall.
Ah.
So these are balanced well, but if the balance is a little too tail heavy, if you get it in a stall, it gets stuck in this weird death spiral that you can't get out of. You don't have any rudder authority or
Right.
anything.
Right. You can't get out.
So yeah, just keep the speed up. And then when you hand launch, the only time I've seen it stall is people hand launch it and they throw it
Oh,
vertically.
like a javelin.
Oh yeah.
The art of hand launching is slowly
slow.
dying.
Yes. It really is.
That is really
Launch
true.
it nice and level, and it's got plenty of power to pull out of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So it's just a yank and bank though. That's
Yeah.
why the death spiral kind of thing. It's
Yeah, once
there's
if that back wing stalls, then you
it's
got
done.
nothing.
Right.
So I do have the newer version of the Infinity Wing, the big one, and this one. I have maybe 3 or 4 degrees of down incidence in the back wing
gotcha.
to help prevent it from stalling first.
Right.
So as long as it doesn't, stall completely both wings, then you're good.
Yeah.
But
So it sounds that if a stall happens, I have to apply all the power I can at where normally I might not do that if flying.
yeah, I mean, I've tried. I stalled it when I was testing this one and trying lighter batteries. I stalled it on purpose, and I was up
it,
high.
huh?
It just the more if I gave it throttle, it just spun faster.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
And there's not enough down elevator to get it out.
Couldn't
to
get
push
it,
it
yeah.
over. Huh?
yeah. So I put a little heavier battery. Now I've got a 1,000 milliamp 3S, and
Gotcha.
improved it quite a bit. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that if you had a heavy, if you balanced it out where it was just perfectly balanced, it may not.
I think it
everyone
could
can
still use a tiny bit more. I've noticed the trim on it's a little bit of down elevator trim, but it tracks great. Like it doesn't fly like it's tail heavy at all.
Right.
When you decrease the power, it noses down a little bit. So
Well, that is very cool.
yeah.
Well, we're excited. Once again, if you're interested in some of the 3D filament, I guess is that the proper term?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the proper term.
Filament.
FNG.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm kidding. This is not really called that.
Oh, I thought you were calling me the new guy.
No,
That's
no,
what the FNG is usually a military term for the new
Oh,
guy.
FNG.
Yeah. So yeah, if you he's making fun of
I
me
got
on the
you.
air.
Wouldn't
So
be the
yeah,
first time.
3daeroventures.com and they can order it, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just fabulous stuff.
Thanks.
I'm truly amazed every time, and I know that we've kind of chit chatted while you're here, and there's new models on the horizon. We don't want you to reveal anything, but sounds to me going through that you've got some really good ideas, and it'd be exciting to see this new stuff go.
Yeah, I'll do probably just a couple a year, but it's fun. I've got a whole list that'll keep me busy for decades.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Well, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
So.
A filing cabinet won't shut.
Yeah. Nowadays it's so easy to find old plans
Sure.
for free and buying digital downloads of the PDFs, and I can kind of start there and trace over those if I'm doing a scale design.
Well, that's amazing.
But
So on the average, how long, like for the chipmunk, when you came up with the concept and sat down with your CAD and did all your stuff, what would you say a total time frame it took you to kind of get the whole the design, not the building, just designing?
Yeah, just design time's a couple hundred hours of work.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's tedious. I mean, getting the outer shell designed is pretty fast, like just the aesthetic, layout of the plane. Once you start diving into the inside and figuring out the engineering of how everything pieces together, how do I make sure it 3D prints properly and so self-supports itself as it's printing. Hardware has to fit perfectly.
Right. Well,
Designing,
and plus you
yeah.
go. I watched you put one of these planes together, and one of the things I noticed, you have tabs.
Yeah,
keying
tabs.
Keying tabs
Built
that
in.
slot A into slot B, all that kind of stuff to help make. I've seen other 3D printed planes, and it was just kind of like you hold it together, have your friend zip around it with the CA glue, and spraying it while you're holding it, and the thing could slip. And I noticed you had everything was sliding into each other, and I was like, oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it all keys together really nice. And that lightweight stuff, it's a little bit more flexible, the lightweight PLA. So I designed different ways to add rigidity to the airframe, but you still get the benefits of the lightweight material.
Speaking of rigidity, what do you use as a spar?
Yeah, so the wings, they have some horizontal spars printed in, but then also going through, basically wingtip to wingtip are some carbon fiber rods or tubes. And in the horizontal stab and the vertical stabs on the bigger planes.
I gotcha.
And then all the way through the fuselage, I'll show you if you pop up the canopy on the bigger ones. There's basically some slots as you're gluing the fuselage together. I have some rigid trays, like rigid PLA trays that slide in, and you glue those into position as you're building
that
it too.
That makes sense, right?
So there's a whole rigid spine internal
that
have a bunch of lightning holes in them and stuff to keep it light.
Oh, very cool.
So it's a pretty cool little engineering structure, yeah.
Yeah, that would take long. And then printing it out is 300 hours.
Yeah,
or so
several
too,
hundred
right?
hours for the big ones.
So
But then
you're
that's a
talking
lot of
almost
hands-off time, which is nice. So as I'm developing, I usually start from the tail back. Like I'll get the whole plane laid out.
Right.
And then for the internal details, I'll start from the tail back. And as I finish a section, I'll start printing while I'm working on the rest.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
yeah.
So I'm sort of doing some things in parallel.
Right.
So yeah, by the time I get the fuselage done in CAD, I've already got the whole tail section printed out. Then I can start printing the fuselage while I work on the wings.
Well, and that probably makes it better, too, because now you can actually physically see it and go, oh.
Yeah,
in order
make
to
tweaks
do,
if I
make
need to,
tweaks. Yeah, that's pretty smart.
So I will give away. I'm working on a B-17 right now.
Oh, wow.
So you bring that, like I printed out the whole tail section. I'm putting panel lines and everything.
Oh, nice.
And then I noticed a problem as I was working on the fuselage, so I got to reprint a couple parts.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have noticed that until
it was actually printed.
Yeah.
So. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, that's very cool. Very, very cool. Real quick question: this checkerboard tail on the Pepsi, Chipmunk.
Yeah.
Could you actually do that on the printer? I know you painted that.
Yeah.
But could you?
There are some printers you can do multicolor printing, and you maybe be able to do that.
Yeah.
With the way the technology is now, it creates a lot of waste when you try to print multicolor.
Gotcha.
Yep. So what it does, it has a waste tower that it builds along with it. When you transition
from one color to
you're transitioning when you're melting plastic. It's,
right.
You've got I don't know,
a couple
inches where the color's off.
Right.
So you have to melt. You basically purge the nozzle when you're switching colors.
Push it out until the next color comes out. Purge it. It goes on this little tower. Once it's done, then it can print.
It's very slow and it creates some waste. I mean,
a lot of waste actually.
Yeah, you end up. A lot of times, if it's a big enough part, the waste tower that it builds as it's doing the transition, it'll weigh more than the actual part.
Yes.
I built this 30-cent part. It cost me $55 in waste.
Well, think about it. If you just have, let's say you were spilling your name out and you wanted to dot the I and make it black.
Oh yeah.
And the rest of it's white or whatever color. Well, then it has to purge out that little dot and re-purge in the primary color, and it's making that thing just for that little for the dot. Let's say you did that a couple hundred times.
Yeah.
Whoa, there you go. But
or you could just open the tester's paint jar and just throw some paint on there.
That would be the simplest
I got
way.
it.
They do have a printer. It's an IDEX format. And once again, I don't remember what the IDX stands for. But basically, there's two print heads. One with each color, and it's on the same gantry for the X gantry, and so one will move out, do its printing, and then move out of the way, and then the other one will come in there.
Yeah,
and then print.
So then you don't have as much of a purge issue.
Then it doesn't have any purge. So that does help, but it also allows you to print multiple parts at the same time. It's printing.
Yeah.
You can print dual colors, or you can print with what's that called? A support material.
Breakaway or melt away supports, like soluble supports.
Soluble supports. It allows you to do that. So you can do mirroring. It can mirror a part.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It can copy a part, and then of course, like I said, just do the two things of printing. So
that technology is going to keep developing. Like there's some you can put 4 print heads on and do 4 different colors.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense, too, because in the printing world that I'm familiar with, they started with 2 print heads, black and,
color. Exactly, yeah.
And then they went to 6 print heads, and then now they're doing, white, black, orange, silver, gold.
Yeah, the people that make signage and stuff are printed signage. They reuse.
I mean, and now they're printing on all kinds of different material, media, too. So. So very cool, very cool. Well, we have been selected to go fly the OV-10s today, so I think those guys are giving us
those
the
things
eye.
are impressive.
Go fly those here later, but man, we appreciate you coming out and bringing all your toys.
Weekend.
It's always good to have you out here.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot.
It's always fun to see you fly. These things are definitely a head turner. I think.
Yeah.
Even when I was spotting with you this Infinity Wing, I think you had a line of pilots back there like asking questions.
Yeah, what is that?
What is that thing? Where did you get that?
Yeah.
So
definitely turned some heads. Yeah. Cool shape. So.
Which one? I thought was really weird because I was standing, down the sponsor vendor row, and people. It was just kind of a weird phenomenon. I don't know if you noticed it, but people were walking by and they would like take a picture, but it wouldn't be like up taking a picture, but they would take a picture down low.
Yeah.
of your
Oh
like,
yeah, like
they-
incognito.
Kind
like
of, yeah, like they were
kinda
like,
like, I
they
don't
weren't sure
want
what they were scared to ask you a question.
Oh, really?
You were too imposing. I don't know. It just
Maybe I
I
looked
watched
too
2 or 3
busy or
guys
something.
walk by, and they were
Yeah.
just like taking a picture, but not kind of overtly doing it. Just
Yeah.
click and looking at
funny.
their phones, and they're like, "What is that? I don't know."
Yeah.
it's a UFO.
It was pretty funny.
Well, they're cool designs.
Yeah, thanks.
I know that just walking around the line this morning, everybody was talking about, man, did you see that 3D printed airplane?
Yeah,
It's fully
that's cool.
3D
Thanks.
printed. So I think you've got a lot of hits. It's always a
Yeah, it's
big
exciting
hit
to see that you can
Yeah,
print
very cool
stuff
technology.
of this size
Yeah,
too, and it
it's amazing.
functions. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
functions
because
well.
Yeah.
you've seen guys, fly mini ones. Like I had a guy at one of my field that printed out a little P-51, and that's why I kind of asked about the Spark, because I went out to help him fly it, and we took off, and he pulled up and snapped the wings clean
Yeah.
out, because it was all just stuff
Yeah,
inside
just
there,
plastic.
little plastic inside. It really didn't have any. He pulled on it hard enough that it just
Yeah.
snapped them
Well,
off.
and plus the Spark. What other people don't realize is that you have to have it. What Eric was saying before, you have to have orientation depending on how you're printing it.
Yeah.
And if he printed that spar, that section of the wing, in the wrong orientation, with the layer lines can separate.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's constantly balancing weight and strength. Just like a real airplane.
Sure.
But
sure.
yeah, I think I've got it down with this lightweight stuff. Like standard PLA is just not a great engineering grade material. It's
Right.
brittle and. But this lightweight stuff adds a little bit of more flexibility to it, it allows it to bend without failing a little bit better, but then combine that with some carbon fiber throughout it and stuff, and
Very cool.
it makes for
Nice.
a good airframe. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it rivals the weight of if you were to build that same plane out of balsa wood, it'd be about the same weight,
Really?
which is pretty
Holy
exciting.
fuck,
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
So-
when you put
Yeah,
it, when
that
you
is
put it
pretty
like
crazy.
that,
Yeah.
in perspective, that's pretty
So
impressive,
yeah,
bud.
I definitely want to push the limit, see how big I can go,
Right.
as long as I keep it strong. Start with something simple like a Cub or something with a real big wingspan.
Sure.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't fly Mach 4.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, we're going to call you Steve Austin from now on. Those
But
young-
if you want to get something to go Mach 4, we'd like to see
Yes,
that.
Yeah.
we will volunteer to come watch
We can go
that.
slow and big, and we can go speedy and
Yeah,
smaller.
that's
so
it.
that's,
So-
I can just make that happen on YouTube and
Oh, there you go. That's
fast forward the video a little, or speed up the video. Look how fast my chipmunk is.
Yeah, look at it go fast.
That's impressive.
That's awesome. So, well, we appreciate you joining us again.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much. We love having you as part of the podcast, and
Always,
when you get some of that those new ideas out, definitely give us
Thanks.
a call. We'll have you back on.
Yeah, always
and
grateful
talk
to be
about
here.
it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Oh, and when you get your B-17 done, you know who to call. So we
Yeah.
can talk about it.
Let's
'cause
talk about that.
I'm getting pretty excited to think
Yeah.
about it.
It's going to take some time on that one. Putting
Well,
a bunch
you
of
know,
scale
and
details.
now the cat's out of the bag. I was
Yeah.
trying to keep it a secret, but
Well, he said it. not me.
Yeah.
I know he did, but
I've already posted some pictures of
have you? Oh, yeah,
See,
there you
like,
go.
you
Oh, this
know.
is some secret.
He's got it on his
I'm trying to
page.
be
He's got it on
nice.
his page.
Have my
Pull it up.
Facebook page.
B-17s have been around for like 80 years, guys. Come on.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's not-
That's true. But not 3D printed.
I know. That's true, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you being a part of the show, and let's
Yeah,
get back
thanks.
out to the flight line and have some fun.
That we will.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Park Flyer Podcast. We're sitting here, and if you guys have been following along with Facebook, you notice I posted a few pictures.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, well, dude, it was a great action picture. I thought I should let the fans know, that you are human.
Yeah, well, what can I say?
So if you folks, or for other listeners who might not have seen our Facebook posts, I have a couple of pictures of Mike and his favorite plane.
Yeah, my
and,
L30.
several pieces.
It's not
parts?
really in several pieces.
Cracks?
It has a couple cracks. That's
Okay, a
it
couple
does have
cracks. Yeah, so I got to ask you, I was pretty surprised because once again I went to the camper, came back, I come walking out, and everybody's like, "Hey, is that guy still romping around in the desert?" And I was like, and I just started laughing because the way the guys everybody was talking smack in the crowd,
Right.
And I look down and I see a blue and white airplane L-39 and this guy lumbering along, and I go, oh, that's Mike.
Yeah, that was
what
me.
happened?
Yeah.
And sure enough, you're walking back with the L-39 from that dreaded direction where I want to say 2 F-18 and maybe there was a third plane that
The pattern airplane went
the
down
pattern
there.
airplane went down there on that same end of the runway.
Yeah, so Superstition Field, which if you fly a real flight, They actually have that field on.
Oh, that's right.
On the real flight. And unlike the simulation, in real life, on the west side of the runway, there's a big wash area. It's probably 8 feet deep, and it's right off the end of the runway. If you go off the end of the runway into the little overrun, and then you even miss that, and you go even further, your airplane will fall 8 feet into the ravine, and it's a pretty big wash, and with the wind the way it was yesterday and kind of whipping around, it creates a burble and a downdraft because it comes in and goes down in there, and then it comes up and kind of pushes you down. And everybody knows it. You got to keep your speed up. And I guess the reason, what brought me to this point, is that we had a biker group.
That's right. They were nice people.
Yeah, it was a road club that rides Harleys or whatever kind of bikes that they have. And so anyway, they showed up, and they were doing a Friday afternoon ride, and they all came in and they were walking around. And anyway, they were asking a bunch of questions, and of course I had my airplanes, and the Pitts was out there, and I just happened to be standing there, and they started talking about this Pitts Python, and they started talking about the jets and the A-10, and of course, I don't know, I was the answer guy. I just kind of was answering questions about it, and they were, oh, well, what's this made out of? And there was a guy in the group who was fairly knowledgeable. He kept pointing out things, which were for close, but not, super like dead nuts on. They weren't. He was very knowledgeable, but he wasn't an expert by any stretch.
Right.
It's like he had some sort of a, hey, that's a foam airplane or that's a balsa airplane. That was kind of about it. And so they were asking questions, and it was, a lot of couples. There was, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and they were all, dressed in their little leathers for out riding, and they were obviously had come in to see it. And so I told them, I said, well, I could go fly this airplane for you if you wanted to. And they're like, really? And I was like, yeah, sure. I said, I've been flying this one all day, so let's take it up. So I threw a battery in there, went out to the line. They're all actually out on the, standing at the fence line, and I was like, yeah. I said, it's no big deal. I said, I'll fly this for us. And so I took off, and I went around, and then I did a low pass, and then I did a inverted low pass, and then I did a couple aerobatics, and then I had told him that the airplane flew both fast and slow, right? And so I went downwind at wide open throttle, so the airplane was just moving, and the wind is probably 10 to 12 miles per hour. It's whipping pretty good.
It would be gusting up to 15.
Yeah,
18.
and I think you posted one of the pictures of the flag standing straight out. But
Yep.
the L-39 does really well in the wind, and it penetrates pretty good. But the funny part, and you even made comment, one of the flights that I did before, where I came in and I did like a vertical, and then the airplane just comes to a stop. So it just hung there, and then I rolled it up, and then it just kind of hung there, and then I started, had to go full throttle to come penetrate it. Well, in my head, I was thinking what I'll do is I'll come whipping downwind, I'll do this really high G bank turn, and then right as I get lined up with the runway, I'll throw the flaps full and just bring the airplane to a crawl and just crawl by, the crowd.
Where everybody's
there.
standing, yeah.
Yeah, and they're all standing right there. And so sure enough, I did. I came whipping around there, put it in this real high G turn, and was honking back on it, and I dropped all the flaps, chopped the throttle, rolled it upright, and the airplane just started sinking. I mean, it was like somebody put their foot on the top of it and just started pushing it to the ground. And I had gone a little too far to the other side of that little ravine. And so when I shut everything down, I had literally zero airspeed. And so now I'm full throttle, trying to get the nose down, but it's sinking below the tree line. I got the flaps full out, the gear up. It's just going nowhere. And I thought, this is not going to be good. And so I just took my lumps. I sucked the flaps up, and by virtue of me sucking the flaps up, I basically just sealed its fate, and it just kind of pancaked in the ground. Now the good news is, I was on the throttle and I could see it, so I saw it all the way to the not to the ground, but I saw it all
Tops
the way
of the
to the
trees.
top of that little bush out there. And at that particular point, I knew it was going in, and I chopped the throttle, and probably, that's what caused me to kind of put a crack in the fuselage. But because the nose did drop, I saw it. But it was hanging in there pretty good. I mean, it was hanging on the wind. I wasn't going forward any, but I needed to push the nose over. But I was low enough that if I had pushed the nose over, I'd have gone right into the trees or into the ravine. And when we mentioned just a few minutes ago that the pattern airplane, that's what happened to it. We got over there and tried to recover it, and it actually got into the ravine and wound up hitting the side of it and kind of doing some damage. I've since fixed that, and we've flown it since then. But yeah, it turned out that everybody was like, oh man, and I turned around and I go, well, and there you have it, folks. That's what happens when you're showing off, and they all kind of laughed, and they're like, oh, you'll never find it. And I'm like, no, I know where it's at. I said, I'll walk right to it. And they're like, really? And I said, yeah, I'll be right back. So the good news was I wasn't jumping up and down or mad or anything. And I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm probably going to have to do a repair or two, probably rip the flaps off and did all that kind of stuff. Had the gear up, so I knew I wasn't going to have to replace the gear. But I didn't know how fast. The flaps don't come up like super fast on the airplane.
They're timed.
They are on a little timer, and they kind of come up. And so I ran over there, went down into the ravine, had to climb up the other side because it was on the west side of the ravine. And so when I got over there, I was really surprised. I looked down at the airplane. I was like, well, it actually fared fairly well. I mean, there was no forward motion on it, so it didn't like take out the wing tips or rip
all the leading edges are all
they're
ripped,
fine. Everything is fine. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, the battery's still there. Everything's still I could move all the controls. Everything seemed to be working, except the elevator. One of the elevator halves, when I moved it, finally popped off. Yeah. So it had hit hard enough that and obviously I had the elevator back, but when it hit, I think it kind of hit on that elevator. It popped it loose. But the servo and everything were still attached, and the only part is that the foam came apart. So where the two foam connects, it's got two hinges in there. The hinges stayed in good condition, but then the foam kind of just detached from it. So the foam hinge portion of it. And so I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty good. The canopy had popped off, which happens. And it should have been my first clue. If the canopy's not attached, then usually it was hard enough that something stretched it enough to come out of the pin because it's got that pin. Yeah, and so it was laying over there. And I thought, well, maybe the pin just, maybe it just popped off. So I went to go pick the airplane up, and that's when I saw it had a crack right at the fuselage and right at the wing where it joins. And I was like, man, this is just...
In fact, there's like a little plastic joiner tray that kind of if I remember correctly, there's like a little thing of plastic before the foam. And it was right in that from there.
Oh, that's the intake.
Yeah.
Yeah, the intake.
It was right along there.
It was right on there. And if you look inside, there's actually a carbon fiber rod it goes down the length of that.
Yeah.
And, come to think of it, I don't know whether I added that carbon rod or whether it came with it. I can't remember.
Don't know.
But that pretty much saved it from coming apart because the carbon rod was, glued in. And so it cracked right there. And obviously it hit the ground, but it hit the ground kind of flat or just slightly nose down. And there wasn't a big rock underneath it. It was pretty much, a flat piece of land. But it was literally maybe a foot away from falling off the cliff. And otherwise it would have tumbled down.
There. That would have
so if I'd have had even just slight forward motion, it would have went through the trees, down into the ravine, probably been a whole lot worse because it would have, now it's headed down 8 feet. It's kind of like falling off your roof, It's not really flying. But. And it was kind of sandy down there, so maybe it would have just lawn darted in, but, I lucked out.
Yeah, you were very lucky.
So I brought it back, and, everybody was kind of like, oh, man, that's so depressing. And I'm like, I'll have it flying by the afternoon time. And so I went over there, and unfortunately it was a little cold. So I whipped out the Beacon's foam tack, and I foam tacked. As a matter of fact, I saw some of the Facebook posts after the fact that you had posted it, that there was, people had mentioned that, they should put it together. And so with foam tack, and I did. But the foam tack wasn't drying quite as fast.
Right. Well, it's cold. You got to understand, folks. It not to say it was like wintertime cold, sub below zero, but with that wind blowing on you, with the wind chill and everything else, that that beacon's just not going to set up. It's not going to.
No.
It was going to take some time, and luckily you let the plane sit for a good.
Yeah, I did. I let it sit all night.
Day.
Yeah, I let it sit yesterday, most of the day. I mean, it happened yesterday afternoon. Right before our interview with Ali.
Ali, okay,
so,
yeah.
And so it was drying the whole time we were talking to him, and then it was getting kind of dark, and I just said, well, I'll just wait till tomorrow, till today, I guess. And so anyway, it by this morning I kind of checked on it. We talked to Eric, and then I just went and flew it not too long ago, and it flew fine. I maidened it, just before the noon show. And then, it kind of, it did real well. So,
ding ding, lucky for you.
Yeah, I went ahead and glued the elevator back on, so that was kind of neat. And then, the noon show came around, so we got to kind of watch some of that. And then, they did a really good job, and I got kind of excited because after watching the noon show with the OV10s and having Ali saying, hey, come on, we'll get you on the sticks. I was kind of like, wow, man, when's that going to happen? So the good news is, he came to us this afternoon and basically said, hey, if you guys are ready,
you guys are ready. I'm just charging up some batteries.
Yeah.
We're like, huh? What? Oh,
I was like, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Tell me when. So he was nice. He came and got us a few minutes ago, and we, got to kind of take time to go over and fly it, and I really liked it. I mean, I really liked it.
That's an understatement, man.
Yeah, so this is a good opportunity because we just got done flying it, and taking this opportunity to kind of review it. But I will tell you that the airplane was different than I thought. It looks big. Ali flies it way differently, right? I mean, he can fly.
Well, he's only got a few hundred hours.
I know, but I mean, he flies it scale, or he flies it, kind of not really 3D, but he does some things with it that honestly the airplane shouldn't do. His inverted Harrier stuff and inverted flying, low to the ground. I just could not believe it. We was in the high alpha inverted it, but it makes sense to me after looking at the airplane and flying it now that. How it would do that, because when you're hanging the rudders and the elevator way down in the air, out of the airflow.
Yeah, because of the way the tail goes, and that elevator's just sticking way up high, and all of a sudden now it would be below.
Yeah, now it's way below. So it seems, plus the way the engines sit on there, they sit a little lower, so it just turns it from a low pod engine to a low wing with engines above it, and you don't get near the disturbance over the tail. And kind of like what he was saying in his interview, it does it really, it's very impressive. So I signed up. He came and got me, and basically told me that I had 5 minutes, do what I wanted. And he gave me a couple pointers, and he basically had a buddy box, so it's a wireless, and he's like, here you go, here's your IX-20, and go ahead. And the only thing that he had was the flaps and the gear.
I think he had the reverse too.
He did have the reverse switch, but he just basically said, hey, this is what you want, and this is how to do it, and you can fly full throttle, you can fly half throttle or quarter throttle, but it's pretty draggy, and he said when you take off, just let it rotate, and then have fun, and Tony Quist walked by, hey Mike, have fun with that thing, it's a blast, and so. I have to say that, I've demoed some airplanes before in the past, and because they're prototypes, you're always kind of like, ooh, I don't know. But having Ali there and having seen what the airplane can do, I really didn't have any nervousness or anything like that. I think I've done enough test flights for, airplanes newly built for other guys that it kind of went away. But I took off. The airplane was really smooth, and it had just ridiculous power. I mean, the thing, I took off 3/4 throttle, and the thing was climbing like a homesick angel.
Right. And I don't know if, I know he said on my flight, you don't need to go full power, go 3/4 power. Power's all you need to take off. And then even then, I was thought I was 3/4. He was like, "Oh, you could slow it down a little bit more from that. I'm gonna, to go ahead and retract the gear." And I'm like, "Real, dude, I'm not. Am I at 3/4?
Yeah.
Wow, really?" He goes, "Yeah, you're going a little fast,
Right,
for the gear, And I'm like, "Oh, wow." And I was nowhere like near full power, but like you said, I was around that 3/4. And he's like, "Yeah, slow it down some more. You're going a little fast for the gear. So just slow it down." I'm like, "Oh, really? Okay." That my biggest thing was with not with the scale, but just the size of the plane, and then I'm like, and then the speed, just the speed, because it's bigger, so it seems like it's going slow. It seems like it's going slow already.
Right, you're right.
And then he's like, "You need to go slower." It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Can you slow down?
Can you slow down a little bit more? And I'm like,
exactly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
That was my hardest part when I was doing it. Was just figuring out, the speed with the size of the plane, because it's so big.
It is really big, but it's very stable.
Oh yeah.
And the roll to me was probably the most scale roll. I was expecting it to roll a little bit quicker than it did, but then I thought, well, it is a big airplane. It's 108 inches, so it's going to roll around. It's not a 3D airplane, so it doesn't roll that way. But they have it set up really scale. The loop was really cool. I did a half Cuban. I didn't really try any knife edge flight. He told me I could, but I was like, it's just something in my head was like, don't. That airplane's not really supposed to do knife edge flight, and I wanted to fly it more to feel the scale portion of it than just to go out there and rip it up, and kind of do some crazy stuff. And he told me that was fine. He was like, "Yeah, do what you want." So the only other thing is when we threw the flaps out, I got it really deep into the stall, and I had a lot of throttle. It is very draggy, so it took a lot more throttle to get that high alpha, but it just hung there. I was, even he said, "Wow, that's, you got it really deep into the stall," and he's like, "It's doing really well. Most people don't get it up that high." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm not really having to do very much with the rudder, and the aileron wasn't really moving, and I'm pretty sure they have the Spectrum version of the A3X, or the 3000, whatever it is, the little gyro thing in there, but." It was pretty impressive, and then the recovery was just lower than he said. Just lower than nose.
All I had to do was release the sticks. It just released the pressure.
Yeah, because I was watching you fly.
I just released the pressure on the sticks,
and it just kind of nosed over,
and boom, and off I was flying again.
And I was high enough in the alpha that he told me, he's like, just release the just push forward on the stick to get it to go forward, and because I had enough power in there that it just pushed over and then just started flying again. And the landing to me was very non-event. I just kind of came in. I didn't really have to drag it in. You do have to keep power over the numbers. It's not something you can just chop the throttle and expect it to float in. Of course, we did have a wind, and so you're going to have to normally have power into the wind. But I had to have a little bit more power. He was kind of like, a little more power, a little more power. Okay, right there. And once we found the sweet spot, it just came right on in. And then as I got it into the flare and reduced the throttle, he said, "I'm going to tell you right now, full throttle." And then as soon as the wheels touched, I jammed the full throttle, and he had it in reverse.
And it stopped. That was
stopped.
when the plane does
and
that.
I was on the other side of the runway, so it just kicked up all the dirt and dust. Kind of made.
Oh, did it? Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was kind of cool. He's like, "Oh yeah, that was cool. You're on the other side of the runway, so all that dirt and dust was over there. Kind of made like a little cloud." And because I was just going down the runway there, but normally guys will land it a little closer to them because it's so big they want it to bring it to them. And but yeah, it was a great flight, and he turned around and said, "Where's Jay?" I go, "I think he's videoing me."
Yeah,
so I think we have some video. We may post it if we can get it to come out correctly. But I had fun. And it looked like you had a big smile on your face.
Dude, how could you not have a a big smile on your face?
I know.
It's not like you're going to go scowl and go, "Really, is that it, mister?"
No, I wouldn't.
Good luck selling those things.
No.
I do not think anybody would even attempt. Just taking a picture with the thing, you have a big smile on your face.
Yeah.
But
it was really nice. We want to thank Ali and the guys over at Hangar 9 and Horizon Hobbies that allowed us to do all that stuff. The E-Flight team was fabulous.
Oh yeah, they were great.
And the fact that he was trusting enough to give us the sticks and just say, "Hey, just do what you want," And honestly, I've seen guys that he like hover over the sticks in case you screw it up, and he was talking to somebody. So obviously, he felt comfortable enough to like let us fly it. I was like, wow, you're really sticking your neck out there because I may be good, but I ain't that good. You know?
I know.
I'm not his caliber. I mean, I can still fly it.
Well,
but I think
unlike you, I was very, very, very nervous.
Really?
Yes, I was very nervous. In fact, I was almost nervous to the point where I almost said, that's okay,
Never mind.
I'll pass.
Really?
And then I thought to myself, when am I ever going to get you get opportunities in your life.
Yeah.
I guess the things for being successful or not successful is if you're brave enough to take the challenge.
Either make the jump or stay on the road.
And I kind of said, okay, I'm going to, I got to do this. I got to fly this thing.
Yeah. Well.
And I tell you what, Ali said something to me because I was like, oh man, I'm really nervous. And he goes, you don't need to be. The plane's very stable, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, and besides, it's not like he goes, I'm not going to let anything happen.
Right.
Even if you're upside down and on fire, I'm not going to let anything happen. I'll take care of it.
Right.
And at that point, I was just like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm on a body box. Right. So I mean, even if I'm yanking and banking back and forth, he's going to be like, yeah, my ship.
Yeah. He can take
You
control.
can keep, you just keep banging on those sticks, and I'll just bring it around. Oh, you're doing a good job. He's flying the plane, right? Telling me all the things I want to hear. So
right.
So he said that to me, and and at that point, the nervousness went away, and I just said, man, just go out there and just go and enjoy yourself.
Right.
And that really made a big difference for me because once he did that, I just went out there, enjoyed myself. I tried to have a good flight, trying to listen to him. As I felt like I was kind of like 16 again, where your dad's like, "Okay, slow down, do this, do that." Didn't you see that car? And I'm like, "What cars? What are you talking about?" So I was trying to listen to him, as he's giving me little pointers as we're flying around. And like you said, the plane it's big, it's beautiful, it flies like a dream. It's like a big trainer, which.
Yep. Yeah.
Really surprised me because even though Ali said to us, it flies like a big trainer, a big old trainer. And, I kind of like, yeah, right. Well, I got out there, and after my first circuit or two, I'm just like, dude, this is really easy to fly. This plane's really, really easy to fly. It doesn't have any nasty tendencies. It's not going to jump up and get you. Everything, not to say everything happens slowly, but because the plane's so big, and like I said, my thing was that time scale, distance, bigness, trying to figure that out. And he's like, okay, you can go slower. And I'm like, I can go slower? He's like, yeah, slow it down. I'm like, okay. Ding, ding, ding. He's like, yeah, slow it down a little bit more. And then he goes, okay, I'm going to throw the flaps out, same thing. And he throws the flaps out. And the plane just, slowing down. And I'm giving a little bit more throttle. And it's slowing down. But it's not, I'm kind of waiting for the snap.
Right.
That snap and that that right wing starts to none of that. No. And so once again, after I kind of got over that, and I got it to slow. I didn't, of course, get nowhere as steep as you did into it, but at that point where I'm kind of like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. And he's like, okay, give it a little bit more power, drop the nose, blah blah blah, and I just released the sticks. I didn't have to push the nose down or anything. I released the sticks. It kind of just sat there for a second, just kind of plodded along, and back into it went. Now my landing, I got a little bit behind the curve for bringing it in. I didn't get a good setup.
You turned in kind of early.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you needed to go out just a little bit more. Further.
And,
because you turned in like right at the edge of the runway, which put you a little bit high.
It was a little bit high, and then to compensate for that, I chopped the throttle back a little bit too much.
Started sinking.
And then it started to sink like a rock. And, by the time he was like, power, he said power maybe 2 times. And then, he goes, okay, my ship.
I got it.
I got it. But although I was disappointed, not being able to have the opportunity to land the plane, since he took it over for me, then he went, he put the coals to it, jumped up 50, 80 feet, climbed right out.
He jumped up more than that. Yeah. He was probably 150 feet.
Okay, 150 feet. And the next thing you know, I'm just like, at first I was like, I was flying too high, or I just came in, whatever. You just jumped up there. So he
surprise.
He gets it up there, and then he puts full flaps, and he puts it, folks, into the 70, 80 degree dive
80, at least,
and he's coming straight down, and he gets within 10 feet above the ground.
No. He did it probably a good 50 to 75 feet above.
It was about okay.
Yeah, because as soon as he hit the 85, he just went boom, and he shot it into reverse.
That's right, and that kind of slowed him down. And
dude, that brought him. It was like I had to wait for the airplane to come out of the sky because he's got it, full on reverse, and it's at this 80 degrees
angle,
coming down. It's like it's getting so slow, and it's just slow. And then you're right, about 10 feet above the ground, he came out of it, and then just flared it, touched down, went into reverse again.
Then reverse again when he was on the ground. Now here's the thing that you folks don't understand. This plane is super quiet.
Oh yeah,
it is so quiet.
It is amazing.
Even when you put the coals to it, it goes from. It's one of those things.
Your vacuum cleaner's almost louder.
You're louder than it, right? Yeah. So this plane is so quiet, even at full power. But when he's doing this maneuver where he's throwing the escapes,
ESCs.
The ESCs are so programmed such that you can throw them into reverse on the fly.
That's correct.
So because of that, and the minute he puts them into reverse, you get this cavitation with the air, and this sounds so badass.
Yeah. It vibrates everything.
It vibrates the plane's vibrating, and it resonates through the whole plane. It just makes this nice bass sound, and it just sounds wonderful. It really does.
It's very tactical.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were not paying attention, everybody turns their
Everybody
head.
turns, and you got to look to see what was making that.
And
that
you're
noise.
all like focused on what the heck is that?
Because before the plane's flying, people don't even like. Yeah. I'll tell you what. When we first got there and they were flying the planes, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see the OV-10s fly. Yeah. And then next thing I know, the team walks out there. Cause I'm doing something, they're doing whatever. And then next thing I see them pushing the planes back.
You missed the whole flight?
Right, yeah. I go, did something go wrong or something?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, they flew their routine and
they flew a complete
thing and they were
formation.
done. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah. Didn't you see them? And I go, no, I was busy doing something. I figured I'd hear them when they take off. Because they had two OV-10s. And I figured I'd hear them when they're flying in tandem and stuff. No, the planes are just that quiet. But I am so grateful that they were nice to us.
Yeah, I am too. We really gotta send a shout out to those guys. They were super nice, and it was nice of him to do an interview with us too. So we're excited about it. So, well, man, let's get back out and do some more flying.
Sounds good to me, my friend.
Night fly is just coming around the corner, and I think we get to chat with Shannon. I think he wants to talk one more time and kind of talk about the events of the day. But other than that, and this was a great time. I'm so glad we got to fly it, and I'm so glad I got my L-39 back in there.
Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to some pizza.
Yeah, sure
pizza
too.
Tonight. Pizza tonight.
Yeah, actually, almost time anyway. So, all right, well, we'll get back out there, and we'll be right back.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.